Let's look at the new Dvsa standards check. And what does that mean to you, do you think? You've got the form in front of you, which gives you all the detail one as well. Let's have a little look at. Right, so what do we think it is? What do we think we need to add to our existing game, do you think? And the Dvsa, as always, or Dvsa rather, it's about safety. Always has been. It's always been their bag. So they're wanting safe approaches. So nothing really changes in that regard. But they've changed their wording from coaching to client-centered. And we feel that's because they've kind of drawn away from the idea that you should just let them experience all sorts of stuff, no matter what, and there'll be no structure to it. So, as you can see, it's in 3 areas: lesson planning, risk management, teaching and learning strategies. Now, teaching and learning are 2 different things. And we need to see them as such, because only the learner can do the learning. As if they choose not to learn, it's not going to happen. Or if you're using techniques that don't work for them. It doesn't matter how good your brief is, if they haven't understood it, might as well be in Dutch. Look at the top of the form, and this little bit here. You'll see that it says emergency stop recap or recap manoeuvres. You know, you would manage that scenario if the learner was wanting to do something outrageous. Now, it is important as well, of course, and it's worthy of note here that you must do that with the examiner in the car. The amount of instructors I've spoken to who say, well, I didn't cover it there because I talked to people about it on the drive there. Yeah, of course, that's helpful for the examiner, isn't it? And somebody actually once said to me, so I've got to do it just for his benefit. Well, duh. Yeah.
You're just going to start the lesson from the beginning, aren't you?
Yeah, of course you do. Of course you do. And I think in order to help yourself with that, you might want to, why don't you drive the car there? So you start the lesson fresh, because it's very easy to forget, oh, we've done that, we've covered that, and forget that the examiner's there. Risk management. Did the trainer ensure that the pupil fully understood how responsibility for risk would be shared? What do you think that means? Any ideas?
Maybe asking how much help they want with what they're doing.
Yeah. Anything else we might do? Do we need to tell them on every lesson? Well, of course, I can take care of safety with the dual controls, but on this occasion I'm going to try and... Do we need to do that on every lesson? No.
You just need to do it on the standards check just for the examiner's benefit.
Well, there has to be some of that, doesn't there? Because it is a standards check at the end of the day.
You probably need to just reassure the pupil, because they might feel nervous if somebody else is in the car, and just say, I remember, as it's always been, I still have the jewels if I need to use them, and I'll tell you as you really know.
And also you may have to break a little bit harder with 3 people.
They're not normally skinny, these fellas, are they? No. Spend your life sat in a car doesn't help with the figure, does it?
Trying.
Yeah, we all. Well, they can't give you a 1.
No. They can't give you a 2, will they? In my book.
But
or a 0.
when was the last time you drove for an hour and there wasn't a safety critical incident? Either with your learner or someone with a driver. So how could you ensure that you got a 3 there? Let's assume nothing's happened. Yeah, it is.
You could mention it, couldn't you? Afterwards that you did very well at such and such and such. That
Could do.
lead to something happening. So happening. Because you did this.
Yeah. Or you make something up.
Maybe that's not
What would you do if?
Use the LD book. So, remember a picture or something that's the same as what we looked at. So, do you remember this one? Just referring to the book and that one.
Yeah. Just some discussion points, some scenarios, or even that's brilliant the way you're doing that. How would that be in the dark? How would that be in the rain? How would that be if it was storm? How would it be A, B, C, D? Then just have a chat about it. But the likelihood is somebody's going to do something, aren't they? Remember, you've got the L plate on the top. That makes people do stupid stuff around you, doesn't it? So there's always going to be discussion points. Did you use it as a learning trigger? This is an interesting one. Was the teaching and learning style suited for the pupil's level of ability? Well, up till now, in traditional instruction, we've taken care of all that, but if we want to be client-centered, what do we think we mean by learning style? Any thoughts? Did the trainer maintain an appropriate, non-discriminatory manner throughout the session? What does that mean, do you think? Any ideas? Thoughts? Feelings?
Lazy idiot.
Just remember to be PC.
What if we start?
Moaning about pedestrian across the road or something.
Yeah.
We start, yeah. What about berating other road users? Look at that fat git. Look at that bloody women drivers. I'm sure they've heard it all on check test. They leave your baggage outside the car. It's something to get into the habit of practicing as well. I'm sure most of you do this anyway. But it's very easy to start talking about you during lessons. You get into, morning, how are you? Oh, I'm good. What about you? We're talking about you now. Well, it's not about you, is it? So you've got to hand the ball back. I'm doing fine. Looking forward to today. What about you? What do you want out of today's session? Always back to them. Now you can't be cold and unfeeling. Ask you how you are. You've got to answer. But what you don't need to have is discussions about what happened on Saturday night. Or you have a look at the way that I deal with it with Claire. She quite often asks me, oh, you have a good weekend? Yeah, not bad at all. Now then, today's lesson. It's none of my business what she's been up to over the weekend. It's none of her business what I've been up to. I'm not going to tell her anyway because she'll probably think less of me. You drank how much? You did what? But it's important when we look at when things have gone wrong, you know, and they may have committed the most stupid mistake. You start going, oh, come on, what's the matter with you, man? It's not good, is it? And at the end of the session, was the pupil encouraged to reflect on their own performance? What about that one? What do we think that's? Are we going to leave it all till the end? Or should it be a work in progress all the time? What do you think? What we'd like you to do is to, as 3 tables, we'll take a section of the form each, with some larger ones. I'll tell you what we'll do. Should have thought of this earlier. Here's what I made earlier. So we'll have a little lottery. And what I'd like you to do is, if you look at your examiner's notes for guidance, you'll see how they're going to assess you and what they're looking for. Indicators that elements of competence were met. So you perhaps use that in your discussions. I'd like you to work through the section that you've been allocated and think about what it is that you might do to make sure you meet that criteria. And then we'll compare notes at the end and see where we're at. You get to choose first. What have you got? T. Teaching and learning. Any card, any card. That leaves you with risk. So lesson planning. So what you need to do is to elect a scribe and jot your thoughts down. Choose my phone. On this larger piece of paper. So think about things that you're going to do, strategies you're going to put in place, things you need to be sure you've done to meet the criteria. You're going to elect a scribe and then we'll come back and show you. So lesson planning was the first one up. Examiner guidance says. The purpose of all driver training is to assess and develop the learner's skill, knowledge and understanding. In relation to the contents of the NSDRT, the National Standards for Driver and Rider Training, their research, which led to the new standards for drivers and new standards for driver training, indicates that that's best achieved by placing the learner, or the student, or the client, at the centre of the learning process. In this context, the assessment criteria should be interpreted as follows. Did the trainer identify the pupil's learning goals and needs? Who had lesson planning again? What do we have for that?
How many would you like?
Just L1.
Oh, we've got loads of stuff.
What was it?
Knock yourself out, go on.
Ask what they want from today.
Okay.
Ask how they thought last lesson went.
That was the other way around.
Don't fight now, don't fight. It's bickering at best.
How have you prepared for today?
Yeah.
Observing body language from yourself and from the client. That will help to assess readiness for the topic. And avoid judging the pupil using unconditional positive regard.
What's that mean?
Was that Val saying, get that in, Bob likes that?
I said nothing.
No.
It was, yeah. That's fine.
Of a learner struggling to meet their learning goals, perhaps we have taken too big a step. So we need to adapt. But what have we got on our list?
Observe body language, listen, identify external risks. Am I being an effective advisor? Am I responding to faults, weaknesses? How am I doing this? Avoid continuing without agreement and explain why you've changed the plan.
Anybody get it? Very good. You didn't say you were finished now, you finished.
I'll
Go on, you established the pattern, keep with it.
finish. I'm getting tired. Body language.
You want to change the plan?
Yeah, it sounds the same.
What else might you do you think? What else could you do to find out if it would be appropriate to change the plan?
Ask who they're happy what they're doing.
Is this working all right for you? Not really. And you know, if you've got the right relation, they might just say, yeah, you know what, can we do something else? It's too much for me to do. And if you've got the right relationship, all sorts of stuff will start happening. Say with Claire, you know, she'll say, you shut up. What? You be quiet while I'm concentrating. All right. You can ask me I don't mind you asking me the questions, just not now. All right. But it's amazing stuff that starts to happen. That I've got a little piece of video to show you in a bit. Remind me, moments of profundity. Who? Exactly.
Is it okay,
Risk.
Bob,
What?
is it okay to suggest change
Yeah.
to them because although they're going ahead with it, but thinking like, for example, we were talking about if you then have to become an advisor on a regular basis, you'll then breaking down the barriers.
Back to your list. Watching body language. You can pick it up, can't you?
Because you know,
It's all
because
too
you might
much.
say, do you want to change it? And they might say, no, I want to keep going, but you can see it's getting worse and worse and worse. And you might think, well, actually, I think we need to.
Would you mind if I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
You appear to be getting a bit stressed there. So what's all that about? Just talk to them.
Hoping they say yes. They don't want to keep going.
And it may well be that they want to. You know?
Yeah.
So this is an interesting one. Vital that all parties in any on-road training situation understand and are clear about where the responsibility lies for safety of themselves, others in the vehicle and other road users. Two aspects. At all times the ADI is responsible for their safety, the safety of the pupil, the safety of other road users. In particular circumstances it can extend to actually taking physical action to keep everybody safe around you. And that's your basic responsibility. And then the bottom point, from a training point of view, the ADI is also responsible for developing the pupil's awareness of and ability to manage risk. As the driver, the pupil also has responsibility. This is the objective that is being assessed in this section. So we want them to be able to handle risk, but at an acceptable level, don't we? Really, you don't want them, throw them in the deep end. There you go, you'll learn from that. We've all heard stories about that. Right? First lesson on the dual carriageway, off you go. So, did the trainer ensure that the pupil fully understood how the risk would be shared? What have we got for that one? Who's up? You're up.
Also,
Top
first
man.
of all, what are the dangers that we're going to be facing? And we're agreeing and discussing the risk management involved.
Okay. How would you do that, do you think?
Verbally.
Telepathy.
Yes, well.
Very good, I'll do that. It's my own fault. I threw it in the air, all you did was hit it.
I couldn't resist.
All right then, what question might you ask?
I think I'll be doing the particular thing that you're actually doing, the lesson you're doing, and where the risks are going to come from.
So it's we get to know our learners, don't we? But I think sometimes we take things for granted a bit and just make a lot of assumptions, which we perhaps shouldn't. It's like the thing with Nikki. If I just asked that question earlier on, were you surprised by anything? Were you surprised by anything in a bad way? Oh yeah. Then I'd have found out. So I made all sorts of assumptions, and we agonised about it for ages. What was causing this? And for a long time I thought, it must be this, it must be that, it must be my relationship with that dad, it must be because I'm too powerful a personality and she's a little meek thing. And it was because I didn't ask the right question. Simple as that. So if I just asked that question, instead of making the assumptions, I took the instructor's hat off and just sat back and thought about it a little bit. So yeah, but on your check test, how are you going to manage that? You're going to say, okay, as always, I'm responsible for, the overall safety of everybody around us, but you need to take care of certain aspects. Think that would be a reasonable approach?
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody got anything else to add to that? Let's have a look at what we put. Was the learner aware of your overriding responsibility? And how they should behave if you deem it necessary to jump in? So do you need to do that for your check test each time? I would say, yeah, why not? Let the guy know that you've got a strategy. Otherwise he's just sat in the back thinking, well, what's going to happen now? So include him in the loop as well as the learner, or her. Was the learner made aware of any particularly risky elements in a proposed action plan? So if this is what we're planning on doing, if there's risk in there, how are we going to take account of that risk? Or indeed, was that risk too far? So you need a discussion about that. Get out in the open, discuss it, put a strategy together. Was the learner encouraged to recognise what might constitute a risk? How could you do that, do you think?
Ask it.
What's the dangers here? That's a great question to use. Because I'll think about it and churn some stuff out. And again, just a little dialogue going. It doesn't have to be a 20-minute chat, just a few seconds. And did you encourage the learner to express views or opinions about what contributed to any risky behaviour seen, with a view to helping them develop a strategy for coping with that? We chatted about it a little earlier, didn't we, about using scenarios. I said, that was great. How would you do that in a DAF? We may also get the opportunity to have a chat about their risk-taking behaviour. Are they a risk-taking person? Okay, so how might that impact on you? When do you think you'd be susceptible to that? With young lads, it's generally when they've got a mate for that car, a car full of their mates. How will you deal with that? What could be the consequences of that? So, we're not there to lecture them and, give them a 30-minute drilling on road safety. They shouldn't be idiots and kill everybody. That's what we're hoping to achieve, but you can't nag them into it, can you? How about the next one? Part 2.
Well, could you just add to that?
Yeah, you most certainly can.
So we've got in the list here.
Oh,
We also
super.
discussed how and when dual controls may be used. And if there was a learner's car with no dual controls, how you would manage that risk.
Teaching somebody their own car, for example.
You don't have that safety zone, comfort zone for yourself.
What do we think we need to do about that?
I'll do it.
No, it's not happening. No, ain't doing that. But it does happen occasionally, doesn't it? How do you manage risk there? Any thoughts?
Say no and don't be afraid to say no.
Well, possibly. Would you perhaps make the steps a little shorter, smaller? so that you're able to manage the risk more easily. It's our responsibility to make sure that happens, isn't it, really? So you don't want to be pushing them too big a step because things then go wrong and you ain't got a brake at your side of the car. You've got the handbrake, but good luck with that. So you would need to be acutely aware of what the risks were and make sure that your route planning was right, that you weren't doing it at the wrong time of day, so you're going to meet lots of pedestrians. You'd make the steps, the increments in it much smaller. Anything else to add to that, John?
I think it just leads into the next section, I think, which
Yeah.
is what we've been saying.
Were directions and instructions given to people clear and in good time?
Yeah.
Anything else to add to that? Do we think? If you think of some more stuff later, please feedback. I'd like you all to take part in the discussion on the forum as well. I'm trying to get that kind of moving so we can share best practice.
What about giving time for the student to overcome any emotional reactions?
Yeah, that's a great one. You know, if they really are shook up, and sometimes they are, if they're a smoker, let them get out and have a fag, perhaps. You know, maybe get out of the car and just a bit of fresh air in and just give them time to chill out. Maybe give you time to chill out because you might have got a bit of a fright. Because it does happen, doesn't it? You think, oh my God, oh, didn't see that coming. How many times have you had that where you've had a really good learning and they just do something completely outlandish? You think, what the hell brought that on? Where's that come from? You've never done that before. I don't know. That's always the answer, isn't it? What made you do that? I don't know. I'm pretty sure I don't. So, final piece of the jigsaw, teaching and learning strategies. Examiner guidance. The important thing to remember when considering teaching and learning styles that it is not just about coaching. Interesting statement. It's about client-centered learning. Is there a difference? I'm not sure there is, but our judgment should be about whether the ADI can help the people to learn in an active way. Also, remember, instruction based around the core competencies used is pretty good. We must not throw that away. We're trying to increase the options available to an ADI. Coaching is a powerful extension of the range of options. It's not an automatic replacement of any existing ones. So that's good. So it shows us that our three-hat approach will work and that we don't have to suddenly become all about the GDE matrix and stuff. So they'll distance themselves from that. There will be many times when it's useful to use a coaching technique. The principle that underpins coaching is that the learner is at the centre of the process. It's client-centered. And they're going to achieve a higher level of awareness and understanding from self-directed solutions, much more than being told what to do. At the bottom, direct instruction is useful in helping a pupil in the early stages cope with new situations. Highlighted that in red. Or supporting a pupil who is clearly struggling in a certain situation. The problem with that is people jump on that and say, oh yeah, so you just instruct in the early stages and then coach later. I don't agree with that. I think there's much more room for coaching in the early stages and getting a feel for things. But basically what they're saying is, don't be scared to instruct if you feel that's what the pupil needs or it's going to be helpful. Just don't make it your first port of call. Good coaching will use the correct technique at the correct time, matching the pupil's needs. So it's about identifying and meeting people's needs. And sometimes an instruction here or there is not going to hurt at all, is it, really? So, you know, in some cases the ADI may need to give direct instruction through, like you've come across a busy traffic situation that you weren't expecting. You're not just going to go, well, go on, you go, we'll leave you on your own here, you'll learn from this. You're going to jump in on you and help. Because otherwise it's just, you know, you're just scaring the people in, aren't you? Coaching forms a part, instruction forms a part of the coaching process. If the ADI then encourages the learner to analyse any problems. So there's nothing wrong with, like we said before, but try it with a handbrake. How was that? So we've learned from that. So there's no harm in that. So don't be scared to put that advisor hat on. A good ADI will take every opportunity to enforce or reinforce learning. So, was the teaching style suited for the pupil's learning style and current ability? What have we got for that, chaps?
Clarify what they want to do, to start with.
the aims and objectives were, how would they want to proceed with it? If like you said, if they're used to doing it first themselves, having a go, or would you just show them first, and then have a go, whichever way around they've discussed and you agreed before.
How about you do that on check tests? How are you going to let the examiner know that that's the case?
You can say to them, say, do you want to do this that we normally do? Let me go first, and then see how it goes.
And the examiner sat there thinking, oh, okay.
That kind of thing.
It's not random.
Or you can give them a choice. You can give them a choice what they want to do.
Yeah.
Get them to choose. Let them make the choice.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's number one.
You got anything to add to that? It's putting the learner at the heart of the thing, isn't it? What do you want to do? How do you want to do it? But also adding in, do you want to do our standard method, which is, and explain to the examiner. Or you might have a chat with the examiner on the way to the car. And what we normally do with this one is, so he knows that you've got a plan. It's not just happening randomly. So did you build a good rapport, communicate effectively, demonstrate a good understanding of what the learner hoped to achieve? Were you actually listening? And did you reflect back? So what you want to do is help the learner recognise suitable learning activities in line with their learning style preferences, ability, experience and emotional state. Encourage the learner to consider a variety of different learning methods and approaches, both in the lesson and as homework, preparation for the next one. Let the learner focus on the learning process at hand without any unnecessary interruptions. I would say, unless it's a safety issue, just let them get on with it and learn from it. But discuss between you, what level of support do you want from me? Help the learner to recognise what approaches work well for them and encourage the learner to take ownership of the process. But also help the learner to find out things that didn't work. I constantly say to them, if there's anything I do that you don't like or that doesn't work for you, please tell me so I can stop doing it. All right, okay. And once they get used to that, they will. Claire will quite happily say, would you mind being quiet? Story of my life. Was the pupil encouraged to analyse problems and take responsibility for their learning? What do we got for that one? They're not telling them everything. Just read them out. So we're trying to get the learning out. What have we put down? Did you actively listen for any queries or concerns the learner might have had? Did you encourage them to express what they might be? You've got to build an atmosphere in the car where the learner is not scared to talk to you about anything. Well, not anything, but you know what I mean. To check your understanding of what was being expressed. They say, so if I've got this right, what you're saying is, or what you're asking me is that right? So don't be scared to ask, because we make too many assumptions, I think. And we're sometimes a little wide of the mark. Did you help them find their own answers or explore possible solutions? Did you check whether the information given was satisfactory and useful? Did that answer your question? And if you got the right relationship with them, go, no, that's not what I asked you at all. Did you let the learner know if you couldn't answer the query? That's what I about before. Ooh, do you know what? That's a brilliant question. Well done. And did you check whether any proposed follow-up action was acceptable to the learner? Anything to add? Splendid. Did the trainer maintain an appropriate, non-discriminatory manner throughout the session? What have we got for that one? Probably the best one, isn't it?
Use appropriate language. Some people, you can have a joke with it, but some need to concentrate. Speed more speed bumps, other drivers, and people like that walking across in front of the car, things like that.
Interesting. A joke. How do we define what an acceptable joke is? If the learner laughs?
Yeah, it's got to be politically correct, hasn't it?
Yeah. So we have to be careful, don't we?
Yeah, you do.
You never know if what you're saying is going to be offensive to the person that you're saying it to. You just don't know, do you? So what's the safest option there, do we think?
Let them tell the joke.
Don't tell it at all. Jokes are for the pub. Nothing wrong with humour in the car. Humour is a great tension reliever and can be a great training aid. But you've just got to be careful. it's like the driving instructors driving, it's these text jokes that go back and forward. Some of those are massively offensive, you know. Ooh, it's laughing. Sometimes you'll say something to the learner, and the learner might think, it's a bit inappropriate, but they'll laugh. Just to be polite. Now the reason that I have a great deal of, in fact I have a wealth of knowledge of this, because I used to deal with all the complaints. And it's always the same, inappropriate comments. And you talk to the instructor about it, say, oh, they thought it was funny. No, you thought they thought it was funny. Well, they laughed. No, well, were they laughing with you? Or were they laughing just to be polite? So you've got to be so careful. Personally, I don't think there's any room for that in a professional working environment. That he who is without sin. Get off. So it's a balance, as with everything, isn't it? Balance. Did you create and maintain an equal relationship? Exhibit humility and respect for the client and anybody else for that matter. It's no good you doing this, be a really nice and good relationship, if you're hurling abuse at other road users. Dvsa! That's, you know, like, oh, wonder what he says about me when I'm not there. Slag it off with our pupils, other instructors. Maintain a professional distance, being careful to avoid personal matters. I know instructors who will tell you, oh, I've helped people through bereavements, divorces, bankruptcies. That's not your job. It's not your job at all. It never has been and it never will be. Avoid it. Oh, sorry to hear that, but bang, back to business. You can't look like you don't care, but you can't delve into it. This isn't any of your business. If you want to see evidence of that, look at the early lessons with Claire. She's going through a torrid time, splitting up with her boyfriend, having to move house. It's mentioned, but poof, bang, I'll move on from it instantly, because that's a dangerous place to go. Because apart from anything else, you're reliving those emotions for it, and how's that going to help her learn? So, sensitively explore any physical difficulties or other problems that might impact on the learning process, with a view to minimising their effect. Actively listen and make sure you are in no way offending the learner or making them feel uncomfortable with your behaviour. So that's a difficult one, and that's a line that an awful lot of driving instructors step over. Now, if our guys, I regard our instructors as the most professional in the business, if our guys are making that mistake, what the hell are the competition doing? The people who really don't know what they're doing. The president could be accepted, of course. And did you adapt your behaviour where necessary? I see, you just scroll back there, you go over the last dozen slides, I've just contravened all of that.
All big dig.
And everybody's laughing just to be polite.
Oh no, I want to know because you're all laughing at me in this regard.
It's all on camera.
And did you adapt your behaviour where necessary to make the learner comfortable and at ease?
I feel comfortable.
Anybody got anything to add to that?
I think we should move on.
That's fantastic. Excellent.
I had a situation recently with a girl who wasn't very happy with the previous
Just a minute.
I didn't really want to get involved. I said, nothing to do with me. I mean, let's move on, let's get on past it. She wanted to talk about it. Do you listen?
No.
Should you listen?
No.
No. Quickly try to disperse it.
I'm really
move
sorry
on
to hear you having
quickly.
trouble with that, but
Yeah.
we need to get down to business.
Yeah, move on.
Well, I'll tell you
It
why.
can be so difficult because the person sitting wants to talk about it and everything, you know, and you've got someone there who's in that frame of mind, you've got to get them out of it.
How much of a servant are you to that learner if you
If
just
you
give them a
delve in it,
2-hour window in the week where they can
Yeah.
forget about it?
Yeah. You need to
So
move
they're
on.
much better servant.
And I have said that, and she has moved on, luckily, and things are picking up, progressing. So.
It's like when you get a learner driver that takes a shine to you. It's not so much of an issue for female instructors because although your young lads might take a shine to you, they wouldn't dare say anything about it. 17-year-old girls are a whole different kettle of fish. And I've seen it time and time and time again where it just goes too far. I was teaching this girl, And she obviously taken a bit of a shame at me, because you're always nice to them, you're patient, you're understanding, you're not like that idiot or boyfriend of theirs. You always want to hear what they've got to say, you value their opinion. And they get the wrong idea. And it was obvious to me that she'd taken a bit of a shame at me, but I'm ignoring it. I thought, it'll be alright, it'll be alright. I'll just pretend it's not happening. I needed to say, no, I'm really sorry, there's no room for that, I'm sorry. But I didn't. And it went on and on and on. And I was massively relieved the day she passed that test. Oh, thank God I've got rid of her. Because her friends all say, what's this about you? And it's, no, it's not what she says. I don't care what she says. Yeah, whatever, you would say that. So the word is out. They're telling their friends, who wants their girlfriend or their daughter to have lessons with me? If I'm sleeping with one of my pupils, I wasn't. I might as well have been. I nearly said I wish I had there, but no, I wasn't. So I got, the cameras. We got through our test, I'm like, thank you. It's done. I'm done with this. And I'm sat that night, it was a Friday night, she passed the test, going out with her mates for a drink. 10:30. I opened the door. Sorry, I didn't open the door. My other half opens the door, and there she is, drunk, telling my other half that me and her are in love and we're going to run away together. Now, I'm quick on my feet, but there's no recovering from that, is there? My other half said, you better come in. I'm through in the kitchen and saying, somebody here to see you. Oh my God, no. And just because I didn't have the nerve at the time to say, no, that's not happening. I might have lost our pupil, but I wonder how many pupils I lost as a consequence of that. That never came to me in the first place. There's just no room for it, there just isn't. You've got to just put it out, right at the beginning. You might come across as a little bit cold and unfeeling, but it's going to save you an awful lot of problems. Trust me. Anyway, moving right swiftly on. At the end of the session was the pupil encouraged to reflect on their own performance. What have we got for that?
Same as number 5.
Oh, that
Reflecting on all themselves.
simple.
And score themselves. Using the book. Everything. Which is virtually the same answer.
Well, it is.
Run out of time there.
So we've put, have you encouraged the learner to reflect on the performance at the end of the session, but also in between lessons. I'll think about how that went. What else you might want to add to this? You put in a provisional plan. How did that go today? How will that link to what's happening next? Encourage them to fill in the reflective log. Obviously you've got the workbook, but I've given you those ones for your learners. Feel free to use. Did you encourage the learner to discuss their feelings, how they felt? I mean, you know, not what we just talked about, on how things are going. And do you encourage the learner to perform an honest self-appraisal? That's not normally too big an issue. They're normally much harder on themselves, aren't they? Generally. But there's perhaps room for you to jump in there if they're being overly hard on themselves and take part in that. Plus, well, what about this? How about what you did here? And I like to start these with, tell me what you did well today. Because if you say, how did that go? Well, I stalled. And out of that 2 hours, that's the only thing they remember, isn't it? Well, I stalled. You tell me a couple of things you did well today. How about this? What about that? That was great. Anything you want to get better at? Ah, I stalled there. What do you think caused that? What else could we do then? So it's important really that it's an honest reflection, but that we don't let it get so honest that they're beating themselves up with it. We tried the GoPro. I'll put some of the video up on our YouTube channel. Look at the forum and see. It's pretty good. The sound quality's done brilliant. These are fantastic, obviously. So where do you go now? Here's where we started. Here the I standards check. What's next? The answer might be nothing. I'm just going to go away and practice that and live happily ever after. Do a SWOT. Strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, threats. What are you good at? What are you weak at? What opportunities might there be for you going forward? Which may be taking another course, reading a book, watching a movie, whatever happens to be. And what are the threats? Well, the new standards one is a bit of a threat, isn't it? If you fail it, you can't work anymore. It's the same deal, fail 3 times and you're off. So this SWOT might inform future continued professional and personal development. And the Dvsa have dropped the requirement. But it's good for you and good for your business to keep yourself up to speed, to learn new things. We have all sorts of things we can do. Functional skills is something that may come in. We've applied for funding for that. If it comes off, it will be very, very attractive for learner drivers, for driving instructors. If you haven't got an A to C in English or maths, we can train you in that, and you get 400 quid just for coming to the training. If you then pass the course, you get another 400 quid. We haven't got it yet, but we've applied for it. Whether we get it or not, we don't know. That makes it more interesting, doesn't it? Well, have training and get paid for it. Watch the forum for that. You may go on to do some coaching qualifications, as the Edexcel one, or the Institute of Leadership and Management. Again, look on cpd4abi.co.uk. I'll give you details of what's happening with this. Obviously, www.cpd, the number 4, abi.co.uk. I'll keep you up to date with what's happening. Perhaps becoming a fleet trainer, although the fleet market is a little dead at the minute. What we need is somebody to be either prosecuted for manslaughter or the recession to be over, then it might change. Well, obviously that involves coaching. Perhaps some other form of CPD. You might have ideas of your own. Two main routes that we think are going to be useful in our industry. Perhaps become an assessor, or perhaps take PTLLS, which is now the level 3 award in education and training. The way that I've structured this qualification for the centre here, and I don't know if you all know that we are now an accredited Edexcel and Institute of Leadership and Management Centre to deliver their qualifications. The units I've chosen to put together include facilitating learning for individuals, which is really an extension of the coaching. Our evidence for that can be based on our workbook. And then assessment and education and training, what we know about assessment, and roles and responsibilities of a teacher. So it's the first step on the teacher training ladder. I loved it when I did it. I found it just opened up my mind to just some different ways of doing things. Assessor, to be able to deliver QCF qualifications, which is the Qualifications Credit Framework. You need to be or to assess them, you need to be obviously an assessor. We feel that the Dvsa are going to go down that route, with learning to drive as well as becoming an instructor. So we're going to need assessors. So that's an area that you might want to have a look at. We do offer assessor training. Again, look on CPD for ADI, you'll see what's on there. Have a think about where you want to be. That's that cliched question, where do you see yourself in 5 years' time? And it's a good question to ask yourself. Where do you see yourself in 5 years? How do you plan on getting there? If you want, once you've got home and you have a think about it, give us a ring and we'll put together an individual learning plan to help you to sort of see where you want to be. Also, on the desk in front of you, you have all these brochures which details some of those courses. Have a look at them. It's listed as PTLLS in there, but that's the level 3 award in education and training is the same thing. It's the first step in the teacher training ladder. So what we need to do is become a little more reflective. We've given you a reflective log to be able to do that. This is Gibbs' reflective cycle. So you've got to describe it. What happened? How did it make you feel? What worked? What didn't? And then analyse it. What sense can you make of it? Is it becoming easier or harder? Is what I've done just to help the process? What else might you have done or not done? And what will you do differently next time? So you constantly go around that reflective loop. What happened? What were you feeling or thinking? What was good? What was bad? What sense can you make of the situation or the new techniques that you've learned? What else might you have done? If it arose again, what else would you do? And these are on your slides. So if you're constantly going around that loop, you'll always improve because you're always looking to get better rather than sort of sit back and our laurels, because we get a set of skills together and then we kind of sort of stay level, don't we? Just plough our way along. We're busy making a living. We haven't really got time to think about developing ourselves. Why would you bother developing yourself? It's good for business. Always looks better on your website, doesn't it? You've got all these extra qualifications, especially if you have client-centered approaches. So you might want to be adding your websites that you have attended a workshop on client-centered approaches and you're now implementing it, because it is becoming quite popular. The great British public out there are aware of what's happening. 7 million of them visiting our website. That's 7 million individual visits. So it's not the same person. Well, it could be the same person on a different computer. But so there's probably at least 5 million people that have been there. So they're aware of it. So start pushing the thing out. Let people know that you are able to do that. Also, and not all of our instructors are doing this. Start modifying your website. Develop your About Me page. Say something about yourself. "Look, I decided to do this because I'm interested in road safety." Yeah, whatever. Make it interesting. Make people want to come and read it. Change it regularly. You know, make sure your picture's up to date. So, I'd like to thank you for attending. A good session, enjoyed it. Please become part of the development team. It's very, very important to us that we develop this and that we're ahead of it. We're already ahead of the game. We need to stay ahead. Yes, Paul?
The website, training to gain, is that
Oh, I forgot about that, yeah.
so
Learn to Gain,
is
yeah.
that actually up and running so that these guys can start to contribute to it? Or are you guys just going to contribute on our main forum?
We
And
could
we're just
use-
going to use the Learn to Gain for people who come on this course.
I don't know, what do you reckon? What do you think? What do you think? If you did know. We could do, because then that means that people who are coming from outside can take part.
Yeah, I mean, it might be better to move the coaching stuff off there and put it onto the Learn to Gain and encourage our instructors to go to that separate site and then we can share it with new people on these courses. So
That makes sense, yeah.
So,
Yeah. Learn to, the number 2, gain.co.uk. When you first get home, that may not be upgraded, but the time the weekend comes on, like that sort. Learn to gain. Good point, Paul. .co.uk. All sorts of resources on there. The legal register. Use your first name, space, last name, and the password of your choice, and I'll activate your account. It's free. Any questions before we let you head off home?
Can you clarify become part of the development team?
Yeah.
What's the best mechanism for doing it?
Whichever suits you. Send me an email, talk me on the phone, take part in the forum, whatever suits you. We're desperate for your input. We're sure that what we've got works. But we haven't tested it on enough.
So, for my benefit, the forum,
Yes.
exactly what is that? Is that the thing that I regularly go on and have a look at, or is there something else?
It is, but we've built another one on this Learn here. It's a very similar format. But it's a forum just to say, but I think it's a good idea to shift the stuff across. So we'll move everything to do with coaching to Learn here. Or we might just replicate that one.
Because I'm just reflecting back to when you came down to Ipswich
Yes.
months ago.
January 2013.
Right.
Oh, sorry, it wasn't.
One of the good things I thought came out of that was the idea of thinking about questions you can ask and just building up, if you like, a vocabulary of questions. Great idea, everybody seems to think it's a great idea. That's not knowledge, nothing happened. So I was wondering, is that somewhere else or?
No, it's just enough. Driving instructors suffer terribly from inertia. That's a great idea. Yeah, somebody else can do it. Take part. Take ownership of it. And drive it. Fully, completely intended. So that would be a great idea. Questions I have asked that worked. Questions I have asked that didn't work.
and these coaching questions.
No, that depends. But share your experience. You know, there is no right, there is no wrong. It doesn't matter. We all just need to find out more about it. We're absolutely confident that this model works, and the Dvsa are happy to be on board with it. So, help us to develop it further. Like I say, we talked about it, didn't we? We're all sat and said, why don't we all develop a list of questions we've used? And we say, yeah, it'll be brilliant. We just didn't happen. And I did try and nudge people quite a bit, but I only have a limited time. Lots of projects being juggled currently. So it would be great if you could all just take part in it.
So which is the website to use?
Learn2gain.co.uk. I'll switch some of the stuff across. Hands up, who's going to take part in that? Liars.
That's what silence says.
Well, your silence speaks volumes. Thank you for your attendance. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I hope you have too. I think we've given you everything we
It's only
need.
3 weeks.
Yeah. If you have check tests coming up, let us know how you get on. You will hopefully be pleased to hear that people that have been on the course, the check test only came in on last Thursday, is it?
Monday.
8 days ago. And we've had 5 people go. Out of those, 3 scored an A. One who had not been instructing for 18 months scored a B, but was only 2 points short of an A. And the other guy, who hasn't instructed for about 3 years, has been living abroad, scored a real solid B. So we're pretty sure we're on top of it. So let us know how you get on. Any questions before I let you go? Feel free, I mean, if you want to hang around and chat, that's you're more than welcome to do that too. I'll put the kettle back on. So I know some of you have got a long way to go. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
And
Thank you very much.
Oh, steady, mate. Well, I wasn't expecting.